Wednesday, July 5th, 2023 City Commission meeting commencing at about 7:09. And as part of our meeting, noted for the record, we will have an executive session following the adjournment of the regular City Commission meeting pursuant to ORS 192660 sub 2 sub F to consider information or records that are exempt from law by public inspection. But regardless of that, we are proceeding to the regular meeting. Would you also do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you stand and join me in the flag salute tonight? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And I just came back from the audience. I wanted to acknowledge James, who's here tonight to work on his communications badge for his Boy Scouts, correct? And he's here with his sister Danielle, who's not doing a project, but just going to hear it for fun, and Dad Tim. So thank you very much for being here. Welcome. And we just want to acknowledge that you're here for tonight. All right, we have one proclamation, and it is celebrating Parks and Recreations Month. And this must come from our esteemed director, Mr. Reed, but thank you so much for that. So, let me get there. So, whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout the country, including Oregon City, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health, wellness, and improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illness such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designated to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education, and whereas Parks and Recreation programming, education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development, and whereas Parks and Recreation increases communities' economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Oregon City recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, therefore I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, hereby proclaim July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month, and I will set my hand this 5th day of July 2023. So thank you, Parks and Recreation. And we will have the signed copy of the proclamation for you. Awesome. Do we have any citizen comments cards that came in?
No, we did not.
Is there anybody in the audience that's here to make a public comment? We received some correspondence that somebody was supposed to be here tonight talking to us. They are not here?
I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened with that.
Anything you would like us to do?
Commission, is there anything you would like us to do with this? I was going to suggest that we put this on the back end of the agenda, since there was a request made in this public comment. It is, if you recall, it's in our packet. It's
Home slate.
yes, Martin Kehoe, or excuse me, is it Martin Kehoe or Marty Kehoe? Marty Kehoe.
If I may, I would.
Yes, sir.
If this is something that the commission would like us to bring forward, I'd recommend putting it on the July 19th commission agenda so that we can prepare a staff report responding. Or if the commission's not interested, we'll continue our position that we're the first position. for our system development charge deferrals.
I'd like to know more about it.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'm fine with putting her on that future agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to go on a future agenda. Okay, all right. All right, we have number 6, which is the adoption of the agenda, and we also have number 7, which is the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone would like to have discussed further? I would like to have a little bit more discussion about item 7D.
You said D like dog?
7D, temporary exemption to private property construction hours associated with the construction of the Clackamas County Courthouse.
I agree. I'd like to pull that one out.
All right, we're going to pull that one out. Let's have a motion for approval of everything except that.
Move to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved with the exception of item 7D. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I want to thank the staff for bringing forward Resolution 2320. I think that's important for us to have an additional study on the Beavercreek Industrial Road area and how we can move that forward, more forward than it is now. We do have some properties on there now, but I think we could get more stuff. And that's something that will fall into purview of planning and economic development. Okay, so we don't have any public hearings tonight. So we can move to item number 9, and we'll put 7D under there, which now will become 9A.
Okay, thank you. I'll invite Ms. Hurd Ravichup, our Community Development Director, to present the staff report. Requesting a temporary exemption to private property construction hours, allowing work to begin earlier than 7 a.m. related to construction of the Clackamas County Courthouse.
Good evening. So this is a request from PCL Construction. They're the contractor for the courthouse. And 2 of their representatives are here tonight if you have questions for them. What they'd like to do is start early in the morning with concrete pours, and that would start at about 5 a.m. The way that our construction hours regulate on private property, and the reason why this is set up the way it is it really only applies to properties that are residentially zoned. And so we, in the code, but the way that we have been applying the construction hours broadly is kind of through policy to say that they are from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so that's why this is set up as an exception to a policy. I know that in the past you're used to seeing requests from Public Works that actually ask for an exemption from a piece of code, but this is a little bit different. And so we set it up like this because it is next to, the site is next to residential property. And so part of this is to get your approval on modifying or temporary exception to that policy. And then we have requested from them, from PCL, that they notify the neighbors within 300 feet of the site. And that matches the notification that we sent out for the type 2 review process. So folks who are already notified about the type 2 would get a notification about these early construction hours. I'm happy to answer any questions. And like I said, the representatives are here if you'd like to ask them questions.
Mike?
Well, my concern was, I mean, that, 5 a.m. is early to start for those neighbors. And the staff report says the reason is heat, and yet it asks for through the end of November. And it's not hot. It's not too hot to pour concrete through the end of November. I mean, maybe, I don't know, through the end of September, perhaps, but I would just like to see that be a much shorter time frame. because that's going to be a nuisance for those neighbors. So that was my concern, is just the amount of time that's been requested.
Anything else?
I'll agree with Commissioner.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't have a concern, but I guess part of what my concern is like you. So imagine, it's Saturday morning, and not for these guys, but, somebody's putting a roof on and it's quiet, and that's what you hear, the staple gun or whatever, the nail gun. I know that these machines, will be like, as they back up, and you're going to hear that, all over the neighborhood. And that's for safety. I totally, I get that.
And if I may just add a clarification, they have requested to do this 1 day a week on Thursdays and potentially 2 days a week, Thursdays and maybe Fridays, but it wouldn't be every day of the week from here until end of November.
Yeah, but who's going to monitor that? No.
Well, it says 2 days, 1 day a week, or 2 days a week on Thursday or possibly Friday.
I think 5 a.m. is doggone early.
Well, 4 a.m. they'll start setting up at 4 a.m. I get that because they got to set those concrete forms up and do all that.
Well, the forms will be set up long before the concrete arrives, having poured concrete. And you might be dealing with concrete pumper trucks too. So I want to be considerate of those people. I mean, 2 hours is the difference between a successful project and not. It's cutting it. I don't want to grant this waiver.
Ms. Aquila, so this isn't applied directly to them, but why do we allow construction on Sunday in residential districts? I mean, it seems to me there ought to be 1 day that you aren't, I know sometimes people are doing homeowner projects, that's different, but, putting on roofs or building a house or whatever, just something for the future that we might consider, looking at that. It's just, sometimes you just want to get a little sleep. And in the summertime, people have their windows open, so, there's more stuff going on. Let me just ask. So, gentlemen, would you like to say anything? Would you like to come up and, or would you just want, or you could just sit there and stare at us, which is probably okay. Yeah. So I know that you guys are racing against time. I don't know what the time frame is, but obviously you're trying to keep the project moving. Yeah. So just tell us who you are.
Appreciate it. My name is Jacob Ravelli. I'm one of the project managers for PCL Construction.
Okay, and then you'll need to get the mic over to you, otherwise you won't. So maybe put it in the middle. There you go.
There we go. My name is Josh Miller. I'm one of the superintendents for the project. So 4 a.m., that's pump set up. It's quiet. There's not noise for that. The concrete would show up at 5. And so that was part of the request compared to 7. And 2 hours does really make a difference with the heat. I agree, the November, that's essentially when we're done pouring concrete, but end of September, like you said, we're really trying to beat the heat with it. And the point of it is over the last couple of years with the heat that we've been getting, OSHA has some pretty strict guidelines in terms of worker breaks and being exposed to the heat. And so after 85 degrees, and that's, not just the temperature on your phone, but that's the
heat index.
The heat index. So we have an app that tells us what the heat index is, which takes into account humidity. After 85 degrees, it's like an extra 10 or 15 minute break every 2 hours. After 90 degrees, that increases. And after 95 degrees, it's like 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off. And so when it comes to pouring concrete, you can't really stop. And so our goal is if we could start at 5 a.m. with the pour, we can get most of it placed and finished by 11 or 12, is right before the hottest part of the day, to get all those people off the deck and make sure we can actually get this stuff down. Because it's OSHA's the last couple of years, that's been their big bugaboo, is the heat. And so we don't want to try to get knocked for that, but we also want to get a quality product put down at the same time.
So you don't have the fancy pop-up tent with the spray mist for the guys to go
we
run?
We actually have some
like a
misters
sprinkler,
as well,
so they can run through the sprinkler.
We got those as well. We got a couple misters, which has been helping the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's just to get everyone off the deck and get the thing finished before it's before we get into that 90, 95 degree weather where we have to give these extra breaks, which nothing wrong with the extra breaks, but it's hard to do when you're pouring concrete because you can't
Well,
let it sit.
would you be amenable to an amendment like I know we get a nice late summer sometimes, and it's, mid-October. I agree with you, Mike. I don't think November is, although we've been known to have strange weather in November as well. Could be sunny all the way.
No.
And we've had those weird Januaries. Sometimes we get heat waves in May. Who knows? We don't, climate change is affecting all of this.
Yeah.
I think that the suggestion, I think with staff you're recommending, so how far would 300 feet be from this particular area? This is Hillendale, as I recall. So you're going in, what, 2 streets, maybe?
Maybe. It's, I think even from the edge of on the site plan that they provided, I think, what did it say?
I can elaborate some more on that too.
Yeah.
From where the pump and the concrete pour out should be set up, it's on the county campus side. So it'll be the east side of the project. So
Sure.
from where that would be set up, where the noise, we would really hear the noise and the backing up of the trucks, that's a good 500 feet from our property line. And then our property line backs up to 6 fences or so of houses. And then there's the street right there in that Hillendale neighborhood. But where the pour will be set up and where most of that noise will come from is a good, 500 feet from our property line on the county campus.
300 feet would be reasonable, then if you've got 500 feet, plus that's like 800 feet. I was even going to suggest even,
So logistically, we
Yeah.
try to set it up, so
Here,
we
yeah.
consider that.
yeah.
Do you have any means of controlling the cure time of the concrete?
Say it again?
Do you have any means of controlling the cure time of the concrete? Can you mist it? Can you use an additive?
We've been messing with some so far. We've had 4 pours so far, and we've kind of just seen it. It's a different mix, but yes, we have some ability with it, but who knows what it's going to do. It's a chemical reaction, so each time you try something else, you see it's a science experiment, but
It is somewhat limited to how much admixtures we can add because it's considered a lead product for green
Yeah, you
building.
can't add
So we
a bunch
got to
of
be
stuff to
careful
it.
if certain things we can add only up to a certain amount before we start affecting that carbon emission number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just relying on my old concrete course in college. Slump tests, cold seams.
But they're trying for a LEED certified building. So do you want to?
The pour is quite a ways away from the property
Yeah.
line, but if I'm understanding the map correctly, the truck exit route is right along the property line,
yes,
right?
you would hear the trucks driving by, but you won't hear that backup alarm or the sound of the pump as much.
Okay. And there's no way to exit the properties back toward Kane Road or Beavercreek?
That's where they
Exit the trucks?
enter.
They've got
We could entertain it, but
there's a circuit, you guys.
yeah, we kind of just
Well,
put one-way traffic in and out just to keep the flow of everything moving.
When I've been over there, I've seen that, and it's much appreciated, because at least you know where the truck is going.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's not coming in the other way and then coming around, so you can come in and you know that, oh, they're going over there, they're coming around. So you want to make an amendment to the time frame?
I'll just say that this project has already had enough bumps in the road, and I don't want to.
No, we're not going to give up.
And so I would be able to support through the end of September.
Yeah, me too.
Like I said, mid-October would be okay with me.
End of
because I know
September is fine with me.
The weather's fine. So is there a motion?
I move to approve the temporary exception to private property construction hours associated with the construction of the Clackamas County Courthouse through the end of September 2023.
And can you add in the notification be 300 feet from the property line as per the staff report?
With that, yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion then. I don't want it to be said by Clackamas County, I agree with you. We're not the impediment. They've made enough impediments on their own, so we don't want to be part of that. Let's have roll call, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion
Okay,
passes.
motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And so we'll get them the mailing list or whatever it is they need for the properties.
think we're going to work with Clackamas County on that, but we can work with them to just double check it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We want to help wherever we can. All right, so next on our agendas, we have some minutes, I believe. Do we have any? We don't have anything else.
Those
So
were a portion of the consent agenda.
Pardon?
We already did that.
Yes, we did the consent agenda.
That was the consent.
That was, yeah. No, that was under general business. We moved 7D to 9. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay. Just backing up a little bit, since we just recently had a Urban Renewal Commission meeting, and although it's not on the agenda, there were a number of things that needed to be requested of the city commission. So I think we should just go ahead and take their recommendation that we look into the things that they asked us about. They asked the city commission in the Urban Renewal Commission meeting, and move that forward. So now you have clear total direction from the city commission, from the Urban Renewal Commission. I know he's smirking.
I have something I'm going to bring it up in public because I brought it up between Mr. Conkle and I.
Okay,
You know, it's possible to adjust the current urban renewal boundaries by 1%,
yes.
which would be about 8.5 acres. And I was curious if we should explore what the Riverwalk amounts to in terms of acreage, that maybe we can make a swap and get some movement on that, put that on our urban renewal. And I realize that it would have to go before voters. God, there's got to be a project out there that somebody can support.
That has to go to the 1% has to go to the vote?
No, the 1% doesn't. But
Okay,
if we were to propose putting
A project.
UR money toward the Riverwalk,
Yes,
which we can't do now because they're not within the boundary, but we could make that swap if in fact the amount of land balances out.
So what would you be proposing to swap out?
Let's take a look at it. Let's just see if it, because we already own the front end of the Riverwalk at the curve. So it's just a way to maybe get a project moving that seems to be stalled while others are making progress. So it's just something, not saying we're doing it, but let's review it and see if it's a possibility.
So that property, the easement is under the purview of the city of Oregon City and Metro?
It is under Metro.
Okay, but would it be the Urban Renewal Agency, or would it be the city? And you know, I'm asking.
For the UR money toward it, it's got to be under the UR, right? Well, the city, I'm going to step back for a minute. There's too many.
I think we've got two things. One would be, the potential discussion or negotiation with Metro concerning the ownership of the easement across the property along the Willamette River. That's one issue. The second issue, which I think you're talking about, is the Urban Renewal Agency amending the district boundary to extend it to include the hypothetical route of the Riverwalk. Right. So I think
That wouldn't require a swap, though. We could add 1%. We don't have to take something back out.
I think we would want to look into it,
that.
and we could come back with exactly what would happen, what the acreages are, and have a good discussion about what those options are.
If it's even feasible, feasibility.
Okay, well, let's make a motion to request the Urban Renewal Agency.
We know some of those people.
Do I don't know. I'm not sure I'm familiar with them, but let's make a formal request to the Urban Renewal Agency to take a look at this. So Mr. O'Donnell makes the motion, I'll second it.
Well, I'm not sure who the proper,
It would be coming from the City Commission requesting the Urban Renewal Commission to look into this.
okay, I'm going to make a motion that we ask the Urban Renewal Commission to consider the feasibility of doing a potential land swap or addition up to the allowable 1% of the current square footage of the current UR district, with the goal of possibly bringing in the Riverwalk as part of the Urban Renewal District.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Just for clarity, was Commissioner Marl, you were the second?
It was my,
No,
Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell and I made it at the same time.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so be it. City manager. Oh, any other general business?
No, ma'am.
Okay. City manager,
I have no updates for tonight, thank you.
commissioners. Please.
I was first wondering if the captain could give us an update on if anything happened of note on the Independence Day holiday.
No, actually, I had Sergeant Pagano give me a report. He sent me a report and said actually he felt that it was less fireworks than normal. I'm sure some people in their neighborhoods didn't feel that way because my neighborhood was particularly kind of crazy last night. But other than that, there was no reports of injuries to anybody. It was really actually quite a mellow night as far as police work goes.
Good. On that note, and this is something that I've brought up before, but I think that we need to start having the conversation of having a city Independence Day event. I think that it's ridiculous that for us living in a historic community, we don't have anything to commemorate the birth of our nation. And I know that many other communities in Clackamas County have an event like this. We had an event like this in the past, the territorial days, and I think that's something that we ought to be exploring. We put on other great events in the year, and I think that this has the potential to be something that we could also do to bring our community together. This is something that I hear from citizens every Independence Day is, well, what are the things that we have around here? We'll go to Happy Valley, go to Lake Oswego, go do something else. So I think that's something that would be worthwhile into looking into, and I would be curious to hear any other opinions.
Well, you know, somebody got recalled about mentioning stuff like that at that time.
No.
Well, and we did do 4th of July fireworks for a long time, and you should at least look into why we don't anymore. And I can tell you that story offline.
Well, I'm not talking necessarily about fireworks. I'm just talking about an event.
Celebration.
I'm not going to say that
Right.
do not equate me bringing this up to
I'm
businesses.
making a joke.
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about something completely different, because it used to be, remember, the 4th of July fireworks show used to be a joint thing between the three cities until eventually Oregon City was the only one paying for it.
Right.
And yet everyone in Gladstone and Westland were still enjoying our fireworks, and so then we said no. So I'm open to it, and I think, you know, people have brought up whether it's a parade or whether it's fireworks or whatever, but
Well,
just,
there
was a history there when we did do it.
Yeah,
for
we
a
were
while.
dealing with it. It was over Meldrum Bar. Yeah, I remember. They were doing it when I was here. I would say what a lot of the cities are doing is that they have their celebration, and many of the communities that do this now are banning fireworks. I am aware of a friend whose brother shot off fireworks in Happy Valley and got a $1,000 fine because they don't allow them in Happy Valley. So, you know, people think they can get away with it, but yeah.
Now you did it.
That's all the encouragement I needed.
I know. So don't go to Happy Valley and shoot off your fireworks.
Well, I don't think anybody in this city has ever been cited for fireworks. And it's been a discussion for a long
It's been
time.
discussed, believe me. When I was on planning commission, we had people come and talk about wanting to know why we don't ban them because of climate change and grass fires. And the day before 4th of July, I was reading in the newspaper about all the people who were injured doing, let's just say, gee, why won't this firework go off, you know?
Well, and again, what I'm trying to talk about is not necessarily a fireworks show
Thank you.
and an individual going to businesses soliciting money behind everyone's back.
Right.
Is not what I'm talking about.
Well, I will.
I'm just talking about an event of some sort that brings this community together to celebrate our country.
Yes,
Which I think is a great idea.
I would support that, but I would make a note for the record that when we had our Juneteenth celebration, Senator Woods had on a T-shirt which caught my attention. Not everybody was free on July 4th, 1776, which is what he was promoting on his shirt, and he's absolutely correct.
That is absolutely correct,
Yes.
and by having a celebration, that's something that we can note to the public even more rightfully so.
And bring all this to full freedomship. So anyway, well, we'll talk about it. Okay, thank you for bringing that up.
And then I had another thing. I just wanted to update my colleagues. As you all know, the legislature has adjourned, and obviously we had the walkout, but some of the walking out senators did end up returning. There were 5 who did not return. And the reason why I want to note that is because there is a bill that's of particular interest to local governments everywhere. You've probably heard of House Bill 3414. It essentially would have taken away our rights to, as a local government, to deny variances. And so it was in the name of housing, which there's a huge debate. It's very frustrating for me as someone who operates in both of those worlds when the experts are telling legislators that if they're serious about housing, the way to boost housing is to give money to localities to upgrade infrastructure so that those developments can happen. It's not for one-size-fits-all development regulations that don't even necessarily lead to the development of affordable units that would actually help the housing crisis we're in right now. But that's what this bill was in the name of, and it passed the House very narrowly, and it failed in the state Senate by a vote of 15 votes in favor. It needed 16 votes in favor. And keep in mind that there were 5 senators who still had not returned. And so had they been there, I don't know if it would have passed or not, but what I do know is that this bill is going to come back. And it's going to continue to be a priority, and it's just something that we need to keep our eye on. But for now, we do not have to deal with that.
But like a bad penny, it might come back. Yeah, the other thing is that, I'll tack onto that, is that Commissioner Savas and, sorry, my mind just went blank. Mayor of West Lynn attended, not in person, but on Zoom, the Transportation Commission hearing on the quote-unquote finance plan that ODOT had for I-205 and I-5. And I read through the entire document, and basically I will tell you folks that it was a regurgitation of all the stuff that we've already heard before. There was nothing new in it, and I received comments. I was asked to comment by Della Moser, who's the Deputy Director of the Urban Mobility section, and I said, well, what is it you want me to say about it, other than you're not proposing any alternatives. There's no alternatives other than it's either tolling or no. You're still showing everything being way out of whack in terms of the costs. And then they said in order to make their budget, which I still don't think is balanced, they're going to cut out the 3rd lane on 205. So, it's kind of like thumbing your nose at the region by saying, well, we're just going to continue to help you make this bottleneck till you give in and support tolling. So I will say again, my disappointment was extreme again, because they haven't done anything new. It's the same old stuff. So the plan came out on a Monday. You had to get your comments in by 4 p.m. the next day, which was Tuesday, in order for them to have a hearing on it at 9 a.m. the next day, and then it was going to go to the governor by July 1st. So I also commented about the lack of transparency and the lack of public participation in this process, that they had rushed this whole thing through. I was just upset again and disgusted by the whole thing.
The big impact for us and for West Lynn in particular, the 2 cities, is the fact that if they're not going to extend the 3rd lane, that means they can't toll that section. And their proposal is now to toll just the Abernathy Bridge.
Yes.
And if you wanted to guarantee diversion into West Lynn and Oregon City, toll just the Abernathy Bridge, because you're making it easier and easier to divert.
Sure, yeah.
And there's only one place to it. We're with this plan, we're worse off than we were before.
Yeah, and so like I said, it's just gone from bad to worse. That was my whole.
With no public comment
Yeah,
time,
with no opportunity for the public to, everybody had to scramble to get there. So it's just, I just don't know what to say anymore. They still haven't called me back, because I recalled and I just said, what is it that you want? We're not giving in on tolling, so you can forget that. I think that's the only the legislation. I want to reach out to our state senator about 3414. I don't think there's any issue with District 13. He voted no. Several of the other senators in our vicinity did vote no. But again, it's discouraging that this is going to come back, and we have to, again, spend valuable resources that we need to be focusing on other things to have to deal with this So one of the things I plan to bring up at the league, as well as the Oregon Mayors Association and the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium, is that we need to respond in a affirmative and demonstrative way to the governor's office that we are really getting tired of this, and this is not the way that we do things. I've made your suggestion so many times. It's like, if you really want us to do housing, you need to either give us the money or you need to give the home builders the money and we can get the housing done, but doing it the way that they're proposing is not the way to do it. And I understand that the whole impetus for that bill got started because the city of Troutdale didn't allow a private nonprofit developer to do something. So now that person who's in charge of that is now the governor's advisor for housing. So thank you, my friends at Troutdale, for not getting this done. And then last but not least, I wanted to report that over the weekend, I received a letter from the governor's office, not chastising me about tolling or anything like that. I have been appointed to the Willamette Falls Locks Authority starting July 1st. My term will be 4 years, anyway. So I will be representing Oregon City. We haven't had anybody from Oregon City on that. And I feel it's really important that we be represented regardless of what happens on either side of the river. I've been involved in dealing with the locks, not only as a private citizen, but as a member of the National Trust when they brought attorneys to the table to talk to the Corps about disinvestment of their ownership to someone else other than them. So I can add something else to my plate, and I will send staff that letter that I got. Any other business? Yes, sir.
I'll mention this just because you mentioned that recent appointment to locks. I brought this up probably years ago, if not less or more. But it's a subject that's in the news lately again, and I think that this commission should also consider having a representative on or working with the group that's working on the frog ferry. The frog ferry system on the river, they've been working forward on a plan to connect the cities through the Willamette River. We've never had anyone connected with that or looked into trying to be. But I think Oregon City should be part of that conversation, or at least consider it at some point, whether or not, I don't know what our involvement could be on it, or if this commission wants to take a look at that, but I think it's something we shouldn't be just.
Again?
Yeah, maybe someone from the group could bring a presentation to us and kind of revise where they're at on it, because then maybe we, as a commission, can see if we can have any input into that. I think with all the things that are going on, on our riverfront in the future, or the riverfront across the way, I think we really need to be aware of what their plans are and how we can assist in supporting it if it's something we feel it's necessary.
I think getting an update on where they are, because it's been a while. It's been quite a while.
It's come back up. They're working with the city of Portland now, and
I know at Portland Development Commission they did a presentation before our commission probably 10 years ago, and it was barely a blip on the radar. Okay. Being no further business, we will adjourn to
Your appointment.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes. So the Natural Resources Commission interviewed Dave Trotter. He is a resident here of Oregon City, and they recommended that he be appointed to the Natural Resources Commission. And so if I can have concurrence on that, that would be great. Everybody's got a thumbs up?
Good.
Okay, all right. Alakazam, he's appointed, okay. All right. Being no further business? Did you have anything else to report? Nope, everything quiet on the Western Front. Thank you for all your support on the Pride event.
Thank the police department.
Yes. And I did want to let the staff know, our commissioners know that I'm working with Jared Lehman to respond to the letter we received on June 26th. So, anyway, all right.
Exec session.
Yeah, we'll adjourn, 5 minutes, and then we'll go into exec session.
Okay.
Where was that?